right, welcome everybody. This is the Ranchise Masterclass for ACTS Decentralized Real Estate and Wanted Raw Foods. My name is Adam Parks, and we're going to talk today about the Ranchise program and how we can restore man's original purpose, which is to build heaven on earth. And for us, it starts with food security, and so we're going to talk a lot about that today. I'm available to answer all your questions. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end. I think as you go through this, one suggestion would be to kind of absorb the material first before you start firing questions in to the chat. It's likely that we will get to your question throughout the process of the presentation, and then you'll be able to get the information you need. And if we miss anything or if you come up with a new question, we'll absolutely take care of that towards the end. So who am I? As I said, my name is Adam Parks. I run Wanted Raw Foods. I'm the COO or Chief Operating Officer for Wanted Raw Foods and the Ranchise program with ACTS. My background is I grew up on a 1,000-acre sheep ranch in Northern California, a little town called Tamales on the coast, about an hour and a half north of San Francisco. And went to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California, studied ag business. I did some other goofy stuff for about 20 years and then got back into ag in 2008 and built a company called Victorian Farmstead Meat Company with my wife and kids. And we built that up over 15 years to where it was a $3 million company at its peak in gross revenue. I think one of the reasons that TJ and Kara hired me was because we built that company with zero advertising. And they kind of figured that if I could do that without advertising, if they introduced me to some ways to market that I didn't know about, then maybe I'd be able to get Wanted Raw Foods where we want it, and that seems to be the case so far. We're very excited about where Wanted Raw Foods is and more importantly where it's going. And we'll talk a little bit more about Wanted Raw Foods as we get through this. But that's who I am. What we do. So what is ranchising? Ranchising, we create off-grid regenerative homesteads and decentralized communities that make faith-based, self-sufficient living simple, accessible, and profitable. That's our mission at ACTS Decentralized Real Estate. And if you're interested in that lifestyle of getting out of the suburbia and getting out to the country, living off-grid, being self-sufficient, and having help along the way. And I think if you watch that video that Malcolm put together in the intro piece here, where some of the testimonials that were on there, they spoke really well about what that means. And it really is up to you in terms of what it means. We've got families that are going to live there full time. This is going to be their life. They want to homeschool their kids, home birth their babies, etc. We've got other families that want it as a vacation retreat or a family compound. Where they can get out of the city when they want. There's opportunities for agritourism through our ACTS Cabins program, where you can put Airbnbs on your property and reap the rewards of that financially. And so there's a lot of stuff that ACTS does to help you facilitate making that move from wherever you are today to a what we like to think of as complete freedom. When we talk about freedom, I'll put it to you this way. One of the more depressing things you can do is go to Instagram or TikTok or whatever your favorite social media deal is and put in homesteading. And what you will find is there's all these folks out there, and God bless them, they've created what they believe is freedom by doing what we're proposing to do, right? Living off-grid, being self-sufficient, growing and raising their own food, etc. But what they come to find out, and the depressing part of it is, they are slaves to their own goals. They have no time off. They can't take a vacation because the animals got to be fed and sick animals got to be tended to and the food's got to be picked and all these things that we that have been in ag and in farmers and ranchers our whole lives know all too well. The biggest success you get as a farmer or rancher is when you get a couple of employees that can cover things for you so that you can take a couple days off and decompress and spend some time with your family. But generally speaking, as a farmer and rancher, you're beholden to the animals and to the land. That's your first priority always, because that's your income, and it's just a passion. It's what you love. And it's certainly what we love, those of us that work in ag for ACTS Decentralized Real Estate, Justin, Vincent, myself, Laurent Lawless down in Florida, our ranch manager at Panoplia. And so what we've created here is a way for you to get all the freedom you want and still be able to have a life, because we do the majority of the work for you. I don't want to tell you we do all the work for you, because that would be a misnomer. You're going to have to participate. You're going to have to participate in terms of being accessible, notifications, responding. But in terms of daily work, going out and feeding animals, moving animals from paddock to paddock, all that, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to know the difference between a cow and a pig. We're going to cover all this tonight. Here's our ecosystem. So this is how our company is broken down. ACTS is the mother company of the businesses that we run, and we as ACTS acquire large ranches. We have Little G Ranch in Grapeland, Texas, which is 492 acres. We own Panoplia Ranch in Central Florida, which is 1,100 acres. And next month, we are so excited, we're going to be closing on Creo Ranch in Middle Tennessee, about an hour and a half south of Nashville. And all these ranches will become distribution hubs for Wanted Raw Foods, and we will be producing meat and eggs and dairy and everything on these ranches and shipping it across the country as part of that program. We also have ACTS Homes. So if you are interested in owning land with us and building your family compound or where you want to live, or even if you just want to do it so that you can put some Airbnb cabins on it and generate some revenue that way, ACTS Homes, James Hoffman is our COO there, and he runs the build program for us and can do everything from starter 900-foot cabins that are kind of prefab and go together very quickly on up to whatever you can dream up in your mind as far as a custom home build. He's built billions of dollars of real estate and has been doing this for his entire life. Tremendous resource for if you're interested in the builds. The Ranch Hand League, that's our division that runs the ranching program. So Justin Vincent is our director of ranching. He oversees our ranch managers at all our different properties. And he and I work very closely together talking about animal management, breed crosses, and we go and evaluate. In fact, we're leaving next week. We're leaving in 2 days to go to Montana to evaluate a couple ranches up there that we're looking to add to our portfolio, and should have some exciting news on that in the coming month. And then Wanted Raw Foods. I already talked a little bit about it, but basically Wanted Raw Foods is our food company that I run. And the purpose of Wanted Raw Foods is to take all the meat that we produce that is not used by our franchise owners, and that's why you're here, right, is to contemplate the idea of owning a franchise. Franchise owners always get first priority. So when you have an animal processed from your franchise, that meat is immediately available to you, and anything that's left over we sell through Wanted Raw Foods. We maintain our own franchise, so we have our own animals. But the idea behind this is we will always control every piece of meat that gets sold through Wanted Raw Foods, because we're the ones raising it, we're the ones feeding it. We decide what they eat, where they live, etc. And so we are never going to fall into the trap that a lot of these big direct-to-consumer meat companies fall into, where they lose control over their producers and they start buying meat from anywhere they can get it because they are trying to fill orders. We won't have that problem. All right, so Ranchise 101, how to build a profitable regenerative agriculture ranch with no land or ranching experience required. So what do I mean by that? As I've spoke in the introductory part here, I talked about ACTS and land that we own, and that we sell this land to people that want this lifestyle. But that's not a requirement. I rebuilt the Ranchise program back in June, and one of the things that I wanted to accomplish with that rebuild was to make sure we could sell this 2 different ways. One is to landowners, as we've always done, but the other was to make it available to people that didn't own land with us, and to make it fractionally available, so you do not have to buy a full franchise. As we go through this discussion tonight, one of the things I want you to keep in mind is you are not buying multiple franchises. Think of it the way you would think of buying a stock. So if you buy stock in Coca-Cola, you're buying stock in Coca-Cola, and the next obvious question is, how many shares of that stock do you own? So if you decide this is a program that you're interested in and you decide to go through with purchasing a franchise, you're going to purchase a franchise. The next discussion is going to be how many shares of a franchise do you want? And that can be as low as a quarter on up to multiple shares if that's what you want. And we'll get into the minutia of that in a little bit here. What's going on here? All right. I'll do it the manual way. Okay, so here's what I'm going to cover today. In the next couple hours, and I'm going to try to keep it pretty tight tonight, you're going to learn about our broken food system and the power of decentralization, how the franchise was born, why we do it this way, investment and generational impact, what the dollar figure is that you're in for, and what that means going forward, what ongoing expenses there might be. Insider tip, there aren't any. That the franchise becomes passive income for you as it grows. Behind the scenes, how we run the franchises and the families, and how we interact with the families that own our franchises, how you can get started today, and a live Q&A at the end, as I promised, where you can ask questions that I may not have covered during the program. Okay, one of the things that I personally hate is anytime you go into a sales presentation, and make no mistake, this is absolutely a sales presentation, but I don't like when somebody forces me to sit there for an hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever, and then they're going to surprise me with the cost. So let's talk about that up front so that you don't have any misconceptions about what we're talking about. I'm showing you this grid here. You'll notice that there's two different categories here, as I discussed, landowner and non-landowner. If you're in this class and you own land with ACTS and you have not purchased a franchise yet, this is what you can expect to pay here. $32,500 for a quarter franchise, up to $130,000 if you want a full franchise. If you do not own land, and the majority of you probably do not, the same spread of sizes there, and you can see it starts at $50,000 and goes up to $200,000 for a full franchise. Why is it more for non-landowners? The reason that it's more for non-landowners is because we need to acquire more land to host your franchise. Right now we're in great shape. We've got space, but that space is going to shrink as parcel owners buy their parcels and build out their homesteads and all that good stuff. The availability of space is going to shrink. Not a problem. We have the ability to go out and get custom grazing leases, where, like for instance, immediately adjacent to the west side of Little G in Grapeland, Texas, we have 340 acres that we're actively pursuing. I don't know whether we're going to end up buying it or doing a custom grazing lease on it, but it's something that we're actively pursuing to make sure we have more room there. We have tons of room in Florida and soon to be in Tennessee, as I said, next month. One other important detail to note about this, if you do start a franchise as a non-landowner and then get so enamored with the system and what we do and everything, and you want to purchase land with us in the future, whatever the difference is between what you paid for your franchise and what it would have cost if you were a non-landowner, you will get that credited to you on your parcel costs. So hypothetically, if you buy a quarter franchise today for $50,000 and 6 months, 6 years, whatever down the road, you decide you want a piece of land with one of our ACTS properties, we're going to reduce that parcel price by that $17,500 there. So we do take that into account. We try to be fair in everything that we do and be totally transparent, and so I wanted to make sure you knew about that as well. Our broken food system, how did we get to where we are today? You know, when you talk about our food system today, and man, it is a great time to be having this discussion because you cannot turn on the news, you can't look at social media without seeing all the nonsense that's going on with, hey, we're going to, quadruple the imports from Argentina. I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but beef prices are at an all-time high, both from a consumer standpoint as well as from a cattleman standpoint. We've got recalls all over the place. People are greenwashing their meat. Greenwashing means that they're mislabeling on purpose, calling this piece of meat that was choice, they're calling it prime, calling it grass-fed and grass-finished when it's not. And the reason that that's all coming to a head right now is because the cattle population in this country is at a very low point. That's not a panic thing for those of us in the cattle industry. It's very cyclical. This has happened throughout my life and throughout Justin's life. He's 20 years younger than me, so of course it's within his life. But at the end of the day, these are all cycles that we have seen come and go, and we're prepared to deal with. That's not the cause of panic. The cause of panic is the public reaction to it, and more importantly, the government's reaction to it. For the president of this country to come out and say that he's going to help American cattle farmers by importing more beef from Argentina is insane. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care who you voted for. It doesn't matter. To have the leader of our country disregard that impact on the cattle industry and beef prices in this country because he doesn't know any better is frustrating. And you'll see that if you Google cattle prices in this country or look them up on social media. There's a lot of cattle producers out there that are frustrated with that. The other thing that's frustrating is that 80% of the meat, not beef, but 80% of the meat in this country is controlled by 4 companies. And 2 of those companies, in particular, Smithfield Pork is owned by China, and JBS, which is the largest meat packer in the world, is owned by a Brazilian conglomerate that seems to have an annual budget for how many billions of dollars they have to pay out in antitrust lawsuits. That's who controls our food supply for protein in this country. And it's incredibly frustrating as an American rancher who has spent a lifetime doing this stuff to be faced with a government that's not, and not just this administration, but past administrations as well, that just do not seem to, they like to pay lip service to farmers and ranchers, but they're constantly worried about their packs and who's paying them dollars. And that's why these big 4 constantly get all the breaks and the small guy gets shoved out of the way. We have a solution for that. Okay, so in order to talk about where we are today, we really have to go back in history. And I'm taking it all the way back to 1776, right? We're coming up on our 250th anniversary as a country. And so if you go back to 1776 and look at our founding fathers, they were really broken into 2 distinct groups. And these 2 groups very closely mirror what we're seeing today and some of the challenges that we face in the ag world today. So on the left side of the grid here, you'll see that we had the agrarians, and that was led by Thomas Jefferson. Big favor towards decentralization, and I'm going to talk all about decentralization in a little bit. But small family farms, and those family farms running the states, making policy for the states, and working it from the ground up. That's a really important distinction because it eliminates a lot of government interference if you have small family farms that are feeding this country that are making policy decisions. And I think that's an incredibly important part to think about as you decide whether this is a good fit. The hierarchy went from the bottom up, as I said, in this case, city, county, state, and then federal. Those were the agrarians. On the other side, we've got Hamilton, and they were called the authoritarians. And they favored a very centralized system for this country. Centralized banks, centralized supply, centralized distribution. Sound familiar? That's the situation we're in right now. And we'll talk about what the challenges are with a centralized system that we currently live in. Government was the center of everything. Government influenced everything. Government set all the policies at a federal level, and then it trickled down to the state and local level. Okay, why decentralization wins? There's a really easy way to show you this. It's up here on the screen. But before I show you, you can see the screen behind me, but think about the biggest taxi cab company in the world right now. Really easy answer, right? Uber. Think about the biggest bookstore in the world right now. Amazon, right? If you think about the biggest hotel chain in the world, it's going to be Airbnb, right? None of the corporate chains, Hilton, Marriott, any of those are even close to Airbnb. And if you think about it, the commonality between those 3 companies and several others is they don't own anything. Now, of course, Amazon has all their distribution sites and all their trucks and all that kind of stuff. But as far as product that they sell, it's all on consignment, right? I can go make a widget and put it up for sale on Amazon. Amazon takes their cut, and I can either ship it directly myself and do fulfillment myself, or I can send inventory to Amazon warehouses and Amazon will ship it out directly from their warehouses. Same with Uber, right? Uber doesn't own a single car. What they do is they contract with people like you and me that want to make some extra money or want a job and wants to use their own car for that job. So I think it's really important to pay attention to the success of these companies that are decentralized. So we want to pay attention that they don't own the product, they connect people to it. Ranchising is doing the same thing with food. So you can own a franchise, right? You own the livestock. You're going to get a mix of livestock depending on whether you buy a quarter, half, a full franchise, 10 franchises, it doesn't matter. When you get to the point where you're ready to buy, Haley's going to set up a meeting with me and we're going to talk through what the options are, what your goals are. Some people have goals of, I want to grow my franchise as fast as possible. Others want to have more food available for their family immediately. And so we can customize every single franchise to our franchise owners' preferences and get them set up so that they are meeting their own goals as well as helping us feed other people in this country. Prior to 1900, so this gives you a really good sense of where we are in this country with agriculture today. Back in 1900, 60% of the population grew its own food, and 90% of rural families grew all their own food, right? So back in the day, and this even goes back, I mean, I remember, whenever I was a kid in the 70s, good Lord, that was a long time ago. But my grandmother at the family ranch had a 1-acre garden, and she would spend all summer and fall canning and preserving and packing all the produce that came out of her garden. So our family had food to eat throughout the winter and spring months. Today, that's not the case. Less than 1% of the population grows any of its own food, and 99% of protein comes from corporate farms. 80% of that comes from those big four that I was telling you about, like JBS and Smithfield. Foreign-owned multinational conglomerates that don't care anything about the quality of food they produce. They really only care about how much money they're making in profits for their shareholders. I think we need to get away from that, and we have a solution for that. So the scarcity mindset, this is something you'll hear about quite often, right? The world's overpopulated, we can't feed the people, stop having babies. We don't want any more immigration because we can't feed the people that we have here. And at ACTS Decentralized Real Estate, Ranchise Program, and Wanted Raw Food, unequivocally, we're calling BS on this whole thing. And I'm going to show you some math that's going to walk you through why that is. So let's take the population of the U.S. It's closer to 330 million people, but we're going to round down to 300 million people in the country that we have today. Those 300 people make up 85 million families. That's important. Okay? In this country, we have 3.2 billion acres of land in the contiguous United States. Of that land, 1.2, or about a third, is in agriculture. And of that agriculture land, about half of it, or 614 million acres, is specifically for grazing. And I bring up that number because we are a meat company. We are looking for grazing land. When we buy our ranches, we need to make sure that they have enough pasture available. As pretty as it might be to get a 600-acre piece of land that's all forested and rivers and creeks and ponds and whatnot, from a production standpoint, we have to make sure that a good portion of that land is available for grazing. That's what we feed our livestock. We are a pasture-based operation, and when we are up and running and fully functional, this time, summer, we will be harvesting our first grass-fed, grass-finished steers. Why is that important? Well, first of all, as I said in the beginning of this, I'm fully transparent. If you got a question, I'll answer it. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find out. We started Wanted Raw Foods in just about a year ago, December of 24. Did some soft sales in December to make sure we had our SOPs in place and knew what we were doing, and then really launched the company public to online sales in January. you cannot start a grass-fed and grass-finished operation unless you just buy grass-fed and grass-finished animals that are ready to harvest, and you'd have to buy a whole operation. The problem with us doing that is, in order to do that, the land would have had to fit our model, and we would have also had to know the genetics behind those beef and other animals. And so we opted not to do that. We made a conscious decision that we were going to do it on our own and start it from scratch, and that's what we've done. Justin has done an amazing job of getting our cattle up to snuff and getting us ready so that our first ever grass-fed and finished beef will be ready late spring, early summer this year, and we cannot wait for that to happen. In the meantime, we have a local ranch that we work with that Justin has known for a long, long time. His family's known for a long time. They do grain finish their beef, but they do it while the beef are out on pasture, so these are not feedlot animals. They are not medicated. There's no vaccines, no hormones, none of that stuff. It's as clean as we can get it, and the feed they're using is of a quality that we can that we're happy with. Our goal absolutely is to get to the point where 100% of what we sell is being raised by us so that we control all aspects of production. But getting back to this, why does this matter? This statement down here at the bottom, 4.5 acres done right will raise enough food to feed 15 families. That's incredible, right? Nobody ever talks about that. But if you properly take care of 4.5 acres, you can raise enough meat, vegetables, eggs, dairy to feed 10 to 15 families. Now, let's go back and look at how that equates to what we talked about up here with the numbers. So let's say we're talking about 10%. I'm not talking about 85 million families. Let's be conservative. And when you get to know me a little bit, you'll know that not only do I try to be very transparent, I'm also uber conservative whenever I am projecting numbers, much to my boss's annoyance at times because I always underestimate what I think we're going to do. But let's say we took 10% of the families and we gave them 4.5 acres. No cost, no nothing, raise food to feed this country. If we gave 8.5 million people, 8.5 million families, 4.5 acres, that's about 40 million acres. And that is only a little over 1.5% of our total acreage. It's about 3% of the ag land, and it's only 6% of the grazing land. We haven't even scratched the surface of what's available, and we can feed 10% of all the families in this country, high quality, no chemicals, no corn, no soy, low PUFA eggs, all the stuff that you dream of in terms of establishing your own food security. We can do that. This is reality. We're actively doing this right now. This is not a fantasy. This is providing families with clean, chemical-free food, produce, meat, milk, and eggs, entirely possible when we come together with a shared vision. This is ostensibly a crowdfunding model, right? You're going to buy a ranchise, and we're going to take your ranchise money and we're going to build infrastructure. We're going to buy your animals, and we're going to build out a world in which all this food self-propagates throughout the years. I'll talk more about that later, but understand this is not a annual $50,000 or $200,000. This is a one-time fee, and we take care of everything after that with very few exceptions. Excuse me. Okay, how the Ranchise was born, from dependent consumer to independent producer. Owning land, consuming chemical-free food is your God-given birthright. And I think we've gotten away from that, right? As a country, we've become so dependent on the Walmarts and the Krogers and the Safeways and the Mega Marts, even the little convenience stores. I mean, I'm in Texas right now, and I found out a while ago, because I was asking somebody local. I've been coming in and out of Texas for almost a year now, and I was stunned at the number of dollar stores, Dollar General, Dollar Fresh, whatever. And somebody was telling me their marketing plan is to have one of those little Dollar General stores or Dollar Family stores or whatever every 11 miles, right? That's their capture. That's incredible. I mean, it's a great marketing program, but that's the level of food that we have come to accept in this country. I'm not even talking about fast food. I find it stunning that I'm super spoiled, right? Born and raised in California, been there my whole life up until the last year, and now living in Texas for almost a year off and on. Hard to find really good fresh produce. whereas in California, we have an abundance of it all year long. Now, California is unique, right? It's the salad bowl of the world. I get that. But part of the reason for that, Justin was telling me, Texas used to have all kinds of small farms raising row crops and vegetables, turnip trucks on the side of the road selling turnip greens, watermelon trucks on the side of the road selling melons, whatever it may be. And that's all gone by the wayside. And I think it's because everything got so artificially inexpensive or cheap in these big mega markets that we got away from worrying about producing our own food and just accepted the crappy quality that you get in those stores. The original idea for the Ranchise program centered around raw dairy. And again, total transparency, we haven't even started the raw dairy program yet. We are cautiously optimistic that we will be building our first dairy parlor at Little G Ranch in East Texas first quarter of next year. Should take about 3 months to build out. But raw dairy is the reason that this whole company got started. The inability to sell raw dairy, it's illegal to sell raw dairy across state lines, was kind of the genesis of the Ranchise program and the need for ACTS to go out and buy ranches in every state. The idea is, okay, if we can't sell raw dairy across state lines, we will simply put a dairy in every state so that we can sell raw dairy across the country. And that was kind of the genesis of it. Now, since I came on board last year in December, I've rebuilt the Ranchise program twice. And the second time was the real game changer for us because, as I mentioned earlier, it allows us to sell it to non-landowners, allows us to sell it fractionally, etc. But the other thing that it does is allows us to produce what we have readily available in a given area. And so, for instance, in Texas, we are actively producing beef, pork, chicken for meat, eggs, etc. And we're adding lamb in November. We will have lamb ready to go for the holidays this year in very limited supply, but we will have it. The point being that because we're taking into account the need for fresh food for everybody, that's how we decided to build this business. It started with raw dairy. Now it's at the point where it is what we can produce immediately and ready to grow into other things like raw dairy, like lamb. We did a turkey experiment this summer that worked extremely well. And we will continue to grow the amount of offerings that we have in this company over time. Raising animals the way God intended, on land, regeneratively, and with love. We run a very clean operation. The animals that do get grain, our laying hens, our meat birds, our hogs, they all get, at worst, a non-GMO feed. It never has corn. It never has soy. Our eggs are low PUFA, and if you don't know what that means polyunsaturated fatty acids. By having low PUFA eggs, they are easier to digest, and you get way more nutritional density out of them. So we are doing all this the way food should be raised, right? Everything in this country has been artificially exploded. Genetic modification to seeds, genetic modifications to animals, and all these things lead to very fast production, very low quality, very empty nutritional density, and we're trying to fix that. Building systems for people who could never do this on their own. I talked earlier about going online and looking at the people that are actively homesteading on their own, and how frustrated they get with it. This is a way for you to get that lifestyle. And even if you live in lower Manhattan, downtown Chicago, San Francisco, doesn't matter. You can own your own animals that are housed out on our ranches. They are run for you by our expert ranch hands, and you never have to think about what they are doing or how they're being cared for. All you need to worry about is when's your next meat coming. And we are here to help with all that. And I should also mention, if you do want information, we provide that as well. One of the things that I always comment, you'll see this a lot in the reels that I do on social media, is if you want to vet the quality and the transparency of where you're getting your food from, simply ask for a tour. Call up Butcher Box and ask them for a tour of their ranch. Crickets. They'll never allow that. First of all, they can't tell you what ranch any piece of meat came off of because they're buying it as fast and furiously as they possibly can to try to fill orders. The second is they don't want you to know where it comes from. To me, even if they were doing it the right way, and I don't believe that's the case, but even if they were doing it the right way, if you're not allowing that transparency, what are you really trying to accomplish? And for us, that transparency is not only a way of life, it's also very public. So if you own a franchise with us and you want to come to Little G Ranch and see your animals, the animals are tagged specifically for your franchise. We don't just have a few cows out there that everybody claims to own. Your animals will be tagged with your franchise number and your name, as well as a ranch tag. And you are welcome to schedule a tour to come out and see your animals out on pasture, see where the laying hens are on the property, and pick eggs and get to know how we do things. We welcome that and are happy to have you come out and see that. Changing how families see food, health, and freedom. We've already talked a lot about this, but I think you get the idea that our goal is to help you build this kind of life for yourself. We do most of the work. Your participation is financial. Your participation is in consuming the food and getting the word out. And that to us is the best ROI we can ask for, is the positive reviews and people talking about this so that we can grow this. A movement to be fruitful and multiply, rewarding, stewarding God's creation to bless families for generation. That comes in a lot of forms. I mentioned when we were talking about the U.S. population, there's this movement out there that we should, limit babies, and you shouldn't be having children if you can't afford it. And even separate from the politics behind it and all the BS that goes into that, I know I've got kids. All three of my kids are in their early to mid 20s. And they're faced with making decisions on when to start a family based on finances. That's criminal. I hate that they're in that position. I'm working my butt off to make sure that they're not in that position for very long, and just hoping I can get there in time so that they can make that decision based on when they want to have children and based on how many children they want to have. You want to have a dozen kids, have a dozen kids. You just need to be able to do it and afford it. And this is a way that you can secure a massive cost burden on yourself for generations to come. These franchises are meant to be generational, meaning that your grandkids should be able to will this down and pass this down to their grandkids and so on. How we provide community crowdfunding, supply chain resilience, and 100% money back guarantee. Oh, I did it again. I don't know why I keep doing that. Okay, this is an important slide, so pay attention to this one. This is what we're not. And I'm going to go through this slide a second time towards the end, because it always seems we get a slew of questions in here of things that I've covered in this slide. So we're going to go through this slide twice, once now, once at the tail end of this presentation, so that nobody misses the message, because I don't want there to be any confusion about what we are and what we aren't. So let's start at the top. This is not a get-rich-quick investment. If your first question is, what is my ROI financially, you're probably not going to enjoy this presentation further. The idea of this is food security first. That said, I'm extremely proud of the ROI that we provide. And I'm going to walk you through it dollar by dollar. I'm going to show you how I figure out your ROI. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm just saying that in my experience doing this for the last 6 to 9 months, that the people that are not happy with the program are strictly worried about how much money they're going to make for it. This is not going to pay off your mortgage next year. It may pay off your mortgage 5 years from now. It may pay off everything you own in 10 years. If I do a good job with this, you're going to be very happy with me down the road. And I feel very confident that that's the path that we're on. But at the end of the day, if you're sitting here saying, I've got $50,000 and I want to get a 20% ROI next year, probably not going to happen. But you are going to get some other benefits that I think you have to calculate into that ROI. We'll talk about those in a minute. A high ROI real estate or stock flip. This is not meant to be flipped. You're not buying a franchise and then turning around and selling it a year later thinking it's going to be worth a lot of money. That's not the goal here. That's not why we built it. I've been really clear about why we built it. But if you're looking to purchase land with us and flip it, or purchase a franchise and think you're going to sell it on the open market, you have to understand this program to be excited about it. This is not something you're going to throw up on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and say, hey, I've got a franchise. I'll tell you a funny story. TJ was in a room with a bunch of very, very high net worth people that are really high up in their individual industries, and it was kind of a meeting of the mind sort of thing. And the guy that was facilitating the meeting was asking people, where do you rank in your niche, in your demographic, in where your company's area of influence is? And he said, are you in the top 10%? And a bunch of people raised their hand. And are you in the top 5%? And less people raised their hand. And he said, who's number one in their industry, in their niche, in their industry, in their category? And the only hand up there was TJ's. And the guy said, wow, that's incredible. I mean, first of all, to have the stones to put your hand up and say, I am the best at what I do. He said, why do you make that claim? And TJ said, it's really simple. I'm the only one doing it. And it's kind of funny, but at the same time, if you are the only one doing it, and we are the only company in the world that I'm aware of, and we've done research on this, we even trademarked the name Ranchise, that's doing it this way, that will sell animals and manage them for you so that you don't have to do anything. That makes us number one. Also makes us in last place if we're being perfectly honest, but it doesn't matter. We're still number one in this market because we're the only ones doing it. And I believe you will see over the next 5 years, there is going to be a flood of people trying to copy this model because it has legs. It is going to be wildly successful, or I would not have given up the career that I had and the company that I owned and the place that I've lived my whole life to move my entire family out here to Texas in the last 10 years of what I hope is my working life, to be part of this. It is not a small backyard homestead. This isn't hobby farming. You own a fully operational, professionally managed ranch run by seasoned ranchers who do all the work for you. Let me be super clear, and then this may come up down the road here too. We're not doing this on your land. Every time I do one of these master classes, we get a dozen people that say, hey, I've got 12 acres in Oklahoma, or I've got 25 acres in Colorado. Can you guys ranchise on my land? That's not what this is about. The secret to this program is running these animals in a controlled environment that we manage. We hire the best ranch hands in the world. We hire the best ranch managers in the world. Justin and I spend hours and hours vetting these people, getting to know them. We do not go on Indeed or Facebook or any of these other common hiring platforms to find these guys. We go down to the auction yard. We go down to the sale barn. We sit at the cafe and we talk to the locals in any place that we're going to. That's how we found Laurent Lawless. We go to farmers markets and we meet the people that are selling what we are going to raise at the farmers markets. We went to the farmers market in Lake Placid, Florida, just to check it out. Met up this wonderful gentleman named Gene Lawless, who was selling meat there. We got to talking with him, and a couple months later, we were ready to hire a ranch manager for our Panoplia Ranch in Florida, and we reached out to him and said, who do you know that might be interested in something like this? Next thing you know, we're in meetings with his son, Laurent, and Laurent has become part of our family. He's doing amazing things down there in Florida, and that's how we go about acquiring the guys that run these things. So this is not a small hobby farm or anything like that. It is not a shared or communal operation. You don't own these animals in conjunction with other people. You do share infrastructure, you share the ranch hands, but what you are buying is a set of livestock. There is no land involved in the transaction that you and I are going to discuss. You are welcome to have conversations about buying land with us, and I am happy to direct you to the right people in our company that can talk to you if you want that. But if we're just talking about ranchising, you are buying a passive income business. You are buying a business that has assets. You are going to own this livestock. You're going to want to insure this livestock, and we'll talk about that as well. But these are assets. I had a great conversation with Ed, our newest Ranchise owner, just completed his contracts today, in fact. And Ed has a deep background in taxes and accounting and business development and that sort of thing. And one thing he was telling me that was really interesting is when you own breeding stock as opposed to production animals. So you own mama cows instead of feeder steers or stalkers, as we call them. You can fully depreciate those animals right away. Now, I am not a tax consultant. I am not a lawyer. I am not a financial analyst. I'm a dirt farmer and a butcher by trade, and now a COO apparently. But at the end of the day, my point is that you need to consult with your tax professionals and your legal advisors and explain this to them, because they're not going to get it right away. This is not something that's been done widely. They're not going to know what the hell you're talking about. and you're going to need to walk them through this to get them on board with what you're trying to accomplish. Anything worth doing well and anything that is a dream is worth fighting for. And that's the work that you're going to have to put into it. You're going to have to take the initiative and explain this to people, explain it to your professional consultants, explain it to your family. I'm here to help you. I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to, walk you through the process. But ultimately, that's your responsibility in this deal, is if this is a move that you are excited to make, you're going to want to be able to explain it, and we can help with that. This is not a concept or a prototype. This isn't theory. I have sold ranchises to over 50 families now. In fact, it's probably closer to 70 families, and we have about 52.6 ranchises on the books right now. This has been going on for a little while. We still have a ton of animals to fulfill, but people are actively getting food from Wanted Raw Foods. People will be getting the first animals processed off their ranchise in early next year. And we couldn't be more excited. Nothing is going to make me happier than sending out that first notification to somebody like Chris Roberts out there who wants to take 2/4 out of his beef that I process in March for him. All that is where the rubber hits the road and why we do all that we're doing. We are not land consultants. And I already kind of addressed this, but I'll say it again. I cannot come and ranchise on land that you own, because that would involve moving the animals there. That would involve hiring a ranch hand for just your property. And at that point, you may as well just do it yourself. It's not the way that this system is built. This system is built to be controlled within ACTS land that we own, so that we manage our employees, we manage our ranch hands and our ranch managers, and make sure everything is done exactly the way that Justin and myself have dreamed it up, and TJ and Kara. That's what we're not. Ranchise animal calculator. Okay, for this, I'm going to share my screen. Now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this. So let me go up here. I'm on the right deal. And I'm going to click share. All right. Haley, can we see that good?
Yes, it looks great.
Perfect. So this is my Ranchise animal calculator. And what this is showing you is the different categories of animals that we run. So you've got your dairy cows. When I say breeding, that means they're mamas. So we've got breeding beef, that means they're mama cows. We've got market beef, those are the stockers or feeder steers that we talked about. We've got mama sows here. We've got market hogs. Breeding ewes, that's mama sheep. Lambs for meat. We have goats. Ultimately, when we have the dairy program up and running, we will be milking goats. I likely will not do much in the way of goat meat. A little redundant with lamb, but more importantly, we really want to grow the dairy program for goats. And then we have two categories of chickens, your meat chickens, or as we call them, broilers, and your egg chickens, which we call layers. I'm actually going to start at the bottom with this because chickens are unique in our world. You'll notice there's no breeding category for chickens. And the reason for that is because we get asked this is another question we get asked all the time. Why don't you just incubate and hatch your own eggs so that everything comes off our ranch? A couple reasons for that. The main one is when you're talking specifically about laying hens, as you can all figure out from your 5th grade sex education class, if we were to incubate 1,000 eggs, we'd end up with 500 roosters. Those have no productive value to a egg-laying program or an egg-laying business. One of the coolest things that God and science worked out a millennia ago is whenever a bird hatches from its egg, the last thing that bird does is eat the yolk. And why is that important? Because that yolk gives that bird or that chick 3 days of food and water. And that means that I can order 1,000 baby chicks from a hatchery in Iowa and have them shipped via the U.S. Postal Service down to us in Grapeland, Texas, and they will be absolutely fine 2 days later. We have very low mortality rates in getting chicks that way. That allows us to make sure that what we're buying is 99% laying hens, so that those hens are productive. It takes about 9 months for those hens to start laying eggs. And so we raise those up from baby chicks. They get out on pasture for about 4 or 5 months before they're ready to start laying, and then they move into the big hen houses. We call them prairie schooners, and they move on to fresh grass every day, and they've got laying boxes in them where the hens lay their eggs, and we go out and collect them. The other chicken category is obviously meat birds or broilers. And again, we're buying day-old chicks for that. It's a whole nother business and a whole nother box of frogs to try to incubate eggs. It's a fun thing to do when you've got little kids and you've got your own backyard chickens and you happen to have a rooster that's fertilizing eggs and you incubate them and see what you get. But from a production standpoint, it's just not practical. So we get those as day-old chicks as well. I bring all this up because in our program, chickens are evergreen. And what I mean by that is if you look over here under the individual ACTS value, you will see that one laying hen will cost you $1,000. That seems insane. I get it, right? You go down to your local feed store in the spring and they've got all the baby chicks there that your kids want to play with and whatnot. And you say, okay, I can buy this baby chick that I can raise up for, $5 or $6, or I can go buy a mature laying hen that's a year old and I can pay $25, $30, maybe $50 for them. So why are you charging me $1,000? The reason we are charging those costs is because you never have to buy chickens again. As long as if you look at this standard Ranchise here in column D, and you look at these 100 laying hens, you are never going to have to buy a laying hen again. Because what will happen is every 3.5 to 4 years, your birds are going to be culled out. They're going to be turned into stew birds. We will sell them through Wanted Raw Foods as stew birds. Nothing goes to waste around here. And then we will populate your cohort of chickens with another 100 birds that are 9 months to a year old and ready to start laying. We do that because we don't want you to have to put more money into the Ranchise program unless you want to. There are no annual fees for this. There are no maintenance costs for this. We have baked in every cost we can into this program. You will have a few financial responsibilities that will be up to you, and we'll talk about those later. But there is very little cash outlay in this unless you choose to, meaning you want to grow your Ranchise. You want to buy more animals ahead of when they might naturally grow. And we'll talk about how it grows in a little while. So that addresses chickens. And then if you go back up to the top here, we've got our dairy cows, we've got the mama beef, the stockers, the mama pigs, the mama sheep, etc. This standard Ranchise right here in column D, that is what we call a 1.0 Ranchise. If you own land with us, it'll cost you $130,000. If you don't own land with us and you're a non-landowner, it costs you $200,000. But we can sell those fractionally. So that's where we come up with, if you're a landowner, it's $32,500. If you're not a landowner, it's $50,000. Again, you're not paying that every year. There are no maintenance fees for this. This column right here in E is where we can get creative. If you look at this particular Ranchise that costs $50,000, this is again Ed's Ranchise, and Ed's primary concern was having as much breeding stock as he could because that is immediately deductible, able to be depreciated. Again, not a tax consultant. Talk to your professionals. This is just what Ed tells me, and I trust Ed. We've had a few really good conversations. We can do different things with this though. I can change this over to 1. I can change this to 1, and I can get rid, actually let's take this out and add in 10 meat birds. What did I do wrong here? I think I need that beef back in there, don't I? Yeah, there you go. So that is the same cost. Don't worry about the 327. We round down. But what you end up with in this version is now every 6 to 9 months you're going to have 10 meat birds available to fill your freezer. You're still going to have your laying hens. You got a steer up here that is going to be ready for processing in the next 12 to 18 months. Again, filling your freezer. So we can customize this even at the very entry level point. We can adjust some things to make it fit what your particular goals are. So let's talk about the difference between market animals and the breeding stock. This is meant to be self-propagating. And what I mean by that is if you look at that mix, and we try to make sure that everybody, even at the entry level, has a good mix of breeding animals in there. Take pigs, for example. Pigs are the most fun example, I guess, because they have a very short gestation period and they're prolific. So from the day that you breed a mama pig or a sow, she's going to have her piglets or farrow. You're getting all kinds of ag words here, so there'll be a quiz later. But she's going to farrow or have those piglets 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days later. Pretty quick compared to 9 months for a human or a cow. Cows are about the same as humans. The other cool thing about pigs, they will generally have anywhere from 4 to 12 piglets. So hypothetically speaking, let's say your sow has 6 piglets and 3 are female and 3 are male. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to send you a notification. Hey, Joe Blow, congratulations. Sow number 142 just had 6 piglets, 3 are female. Want to talk about keeping one of those back to add to your breeding program. And Joe Blow is going to go, yeah, that sounds great. And so he's going to add one of those gilts or female piglets to his breeding program. And the other 5 are going to go into the market program to become meat down the road. Now, I want you to notice down here what just happened. He went from 50,000 to 72,000. And this, the Ranchise share, he went from 0.25 to 0.45. And I know the numbers aren't exact. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm just guessing because I've done this many times. My point is that that's going to ebb and flow over time. Now, a couple things, again, full transparency. That sow or that baby female pig does not get added to your Ranchise until she's productive. For our purposes, that means when she's bred. So she's going to grow for a year, and once she's a year old, we'll breed her out, and then she gets added to your Ranchise. I don't add anything to Ranchises until they are productive. That's really important because we're feeding these animals to get them to the point of productivity. And so we don't start allowing the benefits of them, meaning the financial gain, until they're actually productive. The other thing to notice is, you remember I've added these 5 market hogs. 6 to 8 months later, they're going to be ready for processing. They're going to be ready for meat. So you're going to have a bump in there for a while, but then after 6 to 8 months, when they're ready to be processed, they're going to go away because they're now in my freezer at Wanted Raw Foods or in your freezer at your home. And so now we've dropped back down. You still have a nice gain here. You went up by 7% or $7,000 or whatever you want to call it. So you went from $50,000 to $60,000 here. You went from 0.31 to 0.38 here. That's going to come into play when I talk about ROI and how you get paid out on the financial side of this thing. So that's how this program works. I took a standard 1.0 Ranchise, the one you see here in column D, and I extrapolated it using average luck over a 10-year period and found that it roughly doubles. It goes to 2.1 or 2.2 over 10 years. What do I mean when I say average luck? Okay, so in ranching, and this is the same with any business investment, I get people all the time saying, what if an animal dies? Are you going to replace it? No, I'm not. I love you, and I hope your Ranchise does really well, and I'm going to do my damnedest to work with my ranch managers and my director of ranching to make sure we do the very best we can for you. But ag is tough. There's an old joke in agriculture: if you want to make $1 million farming, you better start with 3. We have a much better system, and I don't find that there's any way that that's going to happen in our world. But that does not mean you're going to have some bad luck, that you're not going to have an animal that simply doesn't make it, that you're not going to have a cow that doesn't take, that can't be bred. Those are facts of life, and just like any other investment you make, you are sharing some risk here. And I want to make that really clear because I've got a lot of people that I've had Ranchise classes with. I had one lady last week, right after the last one. It was a 5-minute conversation, and usually these goes 30 to 45 minutes. I actually told her after 5 minutes, this is not the right program for you. You are not going to be happy purchasing this, and I'd rather not sell it to you. And the reason was all she cared about was the ROI and how fast she was going to reap dollars. She didn't care about, she didn't even eat meat. She was a vegan. She just wanted the financial gain. And I said, that's not how this program was built. It's not going to be a good fit for you. Have a lovely afternoon. It's very important that everybody understands that. So the breeding program will grow this. It's going to ebb and flow over time. But even if you start with the very basic quarter Ranchise, it will double in size over 10 years or so. And you'll be up to a half Ranchise. You can always drop cash into it and call me up and say, hey, Adam, I want to buy a dairy cow. The other thing I get asked all the time too is why don't I have a dairy cow in the quarter Ranchise? Quite honestly, because it chews up most of the money. Dairy cows are extremely expensive. And to feed and maintain those cows over their lifetime and their offspring's lifetime is very expensive. So that's something you either want to grow into, and we've got ways that you can do that without even putting any money out of your own pocket. And we'll talk about that later. This is the animal calculator. You're welcome to take screenshots of this if you want. I'm sure most of you already have, but it will be included in a PDF. When we get to the end of this presentation, I'm going to walk you through next steps, and one of those is to fill out a little quick interest form that we have. That'll get you to Haley. She's going to talk you through some questions and answers and whatnot, and see how close you are ready to go with this. But she can absolutely help you address all those things before you get to me. All right. I'm sorry. And the reason I brought all that up is once you get that interest form filled out, you'll get access to a recording of this call. And you'll also get access to a PDF that has all these slides in it and a picture of the calculator and all that kind of stuff. On that note, I probably should have opened with this. We are recording this live version very specifically tonight because we are going to be creating an on-demand version. And what that means is hopefully within the next week or so, this on-demand version will be posted on our Mighty Network. It'll be posted in our social media. You will be able to go and share this with people and have friends and family watch this as you see fit to help them better understand what it is we're trying to do here. Okay, what's next? Let's talk about how we do it. I'm going to stop sharing here. And I'm going to move this over and bring that back up. Okay. Own the system that feeds you. This isn't money spent, it's independence purchased. Okay. Now, if you've got cash available to go, you're going to get a deal. You're going to get a discount. This is, as I said in the beginning, unfortunately, it is a sales presentation, right? I never like to think of myself as a salesman, but I'm pretty clear by now that that's kind of one of my superpowers. So it is what it is. But the other thing we went through in the first iterations of the Ranchise was we desperately were looking for companies that could offer financing options for this. And we thought we had one. We went through all this minutia with them, machinations and whatnot, and they ended up being a complete fraud. They even made flyers for us and everything, and then at the end of the day didn't do anything they said they were going to do. We searched high and low for other institutions that might be able to finance this, and we just couldn't find it. So at the end of the day, I said, heck with it, I'm going to do it myself. And I went to our finance team, I went to our CEOs, and I said, look, we have no risk here. We hold the animals, we control everything about it, we collect their money. If somebody defaults on our financing arrangement, we keep the money that they've already paid in, and they get nothing out of it. So we're not going to have that many defaults, and at the end of the day, we control the animals. If they default on it, they're the ones that lose out. So that's how I sold the idea of financing it ourselves, and that's what we've done. So this is the similar grid to what you saw before. Whoops, sorry. Apparently got too close to the screen. There we go. So landowner, non-landowner, pricing that we've already discussed, right? So we've already talked about this. If you decide to purchase land, you get the difference. Now, here's the fun screen. This is our financing options. So this screen here is specifically for non-landowners. You can tell because it's got the $50,000 at the top. Total with financing. What this means is this is the interest you're going to pay. So if you decide to take option one, which has a $2,000 monthly payment and a $5,000 down payment, you're going to pay it off in 12 to 24 months, and you're going to pay 10% financing over the course of that time. There is no penalty for prepaying. You can pay this off 3 months later. And quite honestly, if you need to go into a financing arrangement and you're going to pay it off in 3 months and you actually do that, I won't even charge you the $5,000. I'll charge you, it'll be proportional. I get this question a lot. How come it's 12 to 24 months? One of the things that we do when we offer financing is your quarterly revenue payments from Wanted Raw Foods, that you'll understand more of that in just a minute, but those quarterly payments we retain and take off your principal. So if your quarterly payment is $500, we're going to take that off the balance you owe. So let's say that you did option one, you paid $55,000 with a $5,000 deposit. That means that you owe $50,000. You make 3 payments, so you're down to $44,000, and then you get your quarterly payment of $500. We're going to take that down to $43,500. And we're going to keep taking your payments and applying them to your principal, still your money, but we're not going to send it out to you. We're going to take it off your principal so that we shorten the amount of time before you're paid out. Option two is exactly the same. It's just an extra $3,000 because it's going to take you about twice as long to pay it out. Same down payment, but only $1,000 monthly payment. So we drop that down. And if the monthly payment is your biggest bugaboo, we'll do the same thing here for $64,000, but it'll take you about 6 years to pay it off, maybe a little less. So we do offer financing. It's not super flexible. It is what it is. And if it's a fit for you, that's great. This is not intended to be a fit for everyone. We love our franchise owners, but they are unique. They get the vision. And if you get the vision and this is what you've been dreaming of and trying to figure out how to do, I can't wait to talk to you about it. But the vast majority of people won't pull the trigger on this. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of suspicion. Is it a scam? Is it this, that, and the other thing? Again, come on out to the ranch. I'm happy to give you a tour and show you around and show you what we're doing, what animals we have out there, who owns them, etc. There is nothing behind the screen here. Passive generational income. The investment works for you and your future. How your franchise runs. Okay, we've talked repeatedly about this. 100% hands off. You don't have to do anything. Again, and I'm going to repeat this over and over again because it always comes up at the end in questions. You own the animal. These are tangible, real assets that you can depreciate, that you can deal with on your taxes with your tax professionals, etc. If you really wanted to, technically, you could come to the ranch with a stock trailer, pick up your animals, and take them wherever you want. You lose all the money that you put into the management of them, and you lose the expert care that they've been given, but they are your animals. And so if you want to take them off and run them someplace else, you are welcome to do that. They're just not welcome back after that. And that's not because we're jerks. It's because of biosecurity, and we don't want animals going off our property unless we know where they've been. We design your mix. We help you decide what animals are going to be in your franchise around your family's goals. Do you want more meat? Do you want more revenue? Do you want more growth? All those things we'll discuss when we get to have an individual meeting together. Professional ranch hands who run everything: daily care, feed, breeding, rotational mob grazing, processing logistics, fencing, watering, overall well-being. All that we handle. And if I'm not breaking my arm, patting myself on the back, if I'm not breaking our arms, patting ourselves on the back, because I don't do all this, we do a pretty damn good job of it. We've got really good people that have been doing this for a very long period of time that really understand animal husbandry and, more importantly, really care about animal husbandry. I've been a butcher for a long time now and run my own meat company. And when I get a carcass in, I can tell how that animal was treated, particularly with pigs. I'll get a half a hog in to cut on my table, and I can see the bruising. I can see when I skin that animal out, or when I'm cutting into it to cut it into retail chops or whatever, I can see where that animal was beaten on or run ragged or whatever. I can also taste it in the meat. Even if I was a colossal jerk, right? I was the meanest person on the planet. It would not do me any good to beat the hell out of my animals or stress them out right before they were slaughtered, because it creates a bad product. If all I cared about was profit, I still wouldn't do any of those things because it's not profitable. The better you take care of your animals, the better the quality of the meat is going to be. It's why it's so stunning to me that we in this country have allowed these big four companies to run our food system, particularly around protein, and how crappy a job they do of it. It's just dumb, and it doesn't have to be that way. My dream is within the next 3 to 5 years that every ranch that we run is going to have our own processing facilities, our own slaughter facilities. And for those of you that ever heard the name Temple Grandin, I've known Temple for a long time. I don't know her well. I don't know if she'd recognize me or not, but I've been to many of her seminars. She came out and spoke at a ranch that I owned some time ago, and she's an amazing woman. And she is the godmother of humane slaughter in this country and the world, quite honestly. And I bring that up because when we build our slaughter facilities, and even when we build our working pens where we'll brand our cattle and we'll run our animals through to tag them or check on them or whatever we're doing, we will build those with her designs in mind, meaning things like cattle do not like right corners. They don't like corners. So typically you'll see cattle corrals that are round. Sheep do not like to be left alone. If you ever go to your local county fair and you hear a sheep going nuts in the sheep barn, it's generally because he's by himself. The ones that are in pairs are generally fine. So knowing these nuances about the different species and how they interact and what makes them happy and what keeps them calm and comfortable, super important. I just sent a truckload of beef and pigs up to be processed today. 3 hours away. I don't love it because I'd rather they were processed right on our own ranch so that we didn't have to stress those animals out by putting them in a trailer and driving them 3 hours. I just don't have a choice right now. And as we build out our infrastructure and whatnot, we will be able to take better control over that. Smart breeding, growth equals growth. You own the offspring, choose to keep daughters as future breeders, compounds, herd size, or send to production. We are very specific about our animal crosses, particularly when it comes to cattle. Justin is an expert at this. I've got a pretty good background in it as well. He and I have many conversations about it. And for instance, in November, we're going to Alabama. We went to a work day in Central Texas a couple months ago to look at these South Pole bulls, which is a breed. And one of the interesting things about South Poles is there's a gentleman out of Colorado, Kit Farrow, who has done an amazing decades worth of work working on determining what breeds do better conversion of grass to meat. And why is that important? Well, we want to be a grass-fed and finished beef operation. But if we can get these animals, if we can get our beef to convert pasture to meat better, not only more efficiently, but also to increase our marbling and our tenderness scores, that's really important to us. You'll notice on our website, when this company was originally founded long before I got here, the main thought was we were going to have the best, highest end breeds possible. We run exclusively Iberico pork right now out of Spain. We're one of only 3 ranches that are exclusively Iberico in the country. Our beef was originally all Wagyu. Amazing stock, really, really good genetics, etc. However, they need to be crossed with something to adapt to different climates and temperatures and topography. And so Justin just put out a reel that's gotten a lot of run on Instagram the other day called that described what a Wangus is. Wangus is half Wagyu, half Angus, black Angus. We've got Bragus, which are Brahman, Wagyu, and Angus. I'm gonna have to come up with some cute names once we introduce these South Pole bulls, because in Alabama in November, Justin and I will be attending a live sale. We're actually going to do it remotely because we've got a big event at the Florida ranch on the day of the sale. But we're going to buy a couple of these South Pole bulls to get those genetics into our mix because we want higher conversion rates and we want more intermuscular fat in our beef. Same will go with sheep. Sheep are unique. Hair sheep do well in Texas. Wool sheep do not. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to Montana on Thursday to evaluate some ranches, and I can run as many wool sheep up there as I want. Same with our California ranch coming hopefully in 2026. We put a lot of time and effort and thought into these breed crosses to make sure that they're appropriate for the climate. It's way different in South Florida than it is in East Texas or even in Tennessee. And that's all Southeast, never mind when we start working our way north and west. Birds are evergreen. I already discussed that. I won't spend any more time on that. The right genetics in the right place. Breed mixes are tailored by state and ranch. I just went over all that. You control consumption. This is what I want to make super clear. Give me one sec. Excuse me. The first goal of this Ranchise program is to feed your family, to make sure that you have food security for generations to come, that you never have to wonder where your protein's coming from, what it was fed, how it was handled, any of that. You are going to have total food security for your family today and for generations to come. And that's a commitment that we're making to you through this program. So when your animals are processed, if you need every scrap of meat off there, please take it. Now, if we find out that people are taking it and selling it on the side, on the gray market or anything like that, we'll fix that problem one way or the other. Because I'm not going to be taken advantage of, but I do want to make sure that your family is being fed. That's why you're building this business. That's why you're building this infrastructure with us, is because you want food security for generations to come. When we talk about when an animal is processed, you'll get notifications and then we'll have a discussion. You'll be able to see a grid that shows you what different cuts you have access to, and you'll be able to decide, yes, I want this mix and I want that mix. And we can talk more about that as it's appropriate, but you do have control over every piece of meat that comes off your Ranchise. Let's talk about the command center. Speaking of notifications and whatnot, I'm going to share my screen again with you. So this is the first version of the Ranchise Command Center. And the idea behind this is where you can go online to see your animals, where they are in production. You'll see the tag numbers. One of the cool features that we're adding in is, for instance, if you look at this dairy cows here, tag number 6, if I click on that, oops, Sam's clearly been working on this. He had some little, what do you call them, silhouettes here, because we didn't have actual pictures yet. This is a brand new feature that we're going to offer to all our franchise owners. You will be able to see a face view and a side view of all your breeding stock, so that when you do come out to visit the ranch, if you want to, you'll be able to go out in the field and we can point out, hey, there's cow number 132. That's yours. See the tag in the left ear? That's got your name on it. You'll be able to see production. There are a million different things we want to do with this command center. This is where you'll get notifications. Again, if your animals have offspring, you'll get notified. If you have animals that have been processed, you'll get notified. If you want to buy livestock insurance, we're going to have links here for programs that you can access to get insurance for your stock if you want to do that. We'll have pictures, like I said, of your breeding stock, but this is going to grow over time. But it's at its initial stages, you can see it gives you all the information that you need for your franchise, and it's updated on the fly, meaning every time we make a change on our master spreadsheet, it reflects in here. Let me stop sharing my screen so you're not staring at both. All right. Family food first, profits next, 50-50 split. So one of the advantages you get as a franchise owner is we're well aware there is a gap. You are going to, for instance, if you don't own land with us, again, full transparency, by contract, we have 12 months to fulfill your animals. Probably won't take that long, but it's important that you know that these animals don't just appear. You don't pay me $50,000 today for a quarter franchise, and then next week I'm out filling your animals. That's for a number of reasons. One is because we don't bring that many animals onto a ranch at one time. We're building these out slowly. The other thing is it takes a while to find the right mix. Cattle prices are at an all-time high right now, and the breeds that we want to work with are as expensive as it gets. We're only buying the best animals we can. So it's going to take a while to get the animals physically onto our ranch to start your franchise. Then once they get there, those animals have to come up to weight. We have to get them to production weight. And that could mean anything from your cow being bred. If you don't have any market animals in your initial franchise, then you've got a mama cow that needs to be bred. She's got 9-month gestation. And then you've got 18 to 24 months for that calf to grow into a full-size beef. Pigs, no big deal, right? I already told you. You get a pig and roughly 4 months later, that pig has her piglets. And 6 to 8 months later, that piglet is ready for the meat locker. So it's dependent on the animal we're talking about. Meat birds, very quick, right? From day old chick to in my freezer inside 10 to 12 weeks. But when we're talking about these things, it's important. This is a business you're buying. These are assets that you own. You need to know what your expectation should be. And if your expectation is, I want a freezer full of ribeyes next week, that's not what we're talking about here. However, I can set you up with a freezer full of ribeyes through Wanted Raw Foods. As a franchise owner, you're going to get a 25% discount on everything that we sell at Wanted Raw Foods, with a few exceptions. In addition, you're going to have access to cases of eggs, which is 4 dozen eggs to a case for $20. That's basically just shipping and handling costs. So there's a lot of ways that you can bridge that gap between when you buy your franchise and when your franchise is actually productive with meat. But I just want to be super transparent about it. Not going to happen overnight. That's not how ranching works. Simple claiming, choose beef quarters, poultry, pork. We talked about this a little bit, but my point is, when you have a beef process, for example, a beef is naturally broken into 4 quarters, 2 forequarters or front quarters, 2 hind quarters. And in each of those quarters, for our purposes of discussing you getting access to your meat, I'm going to make sure that each of those 4 quarters is made up a little differently. In the front half of the beef, for instance, you have the ribeye or the export. So let's say you want all bone-in ribeye steaks. Those come in quarter A. But in quarter B, that same ribeye steak is made into boneless steaks, and you get the beef ribs that you can smoke on your grill instead of the bone-in ribeyes. In the back half of the animal, you've got the New York strip and the filet mignon. Or in the other quarter, you could decide to take those in the form of T-bones and porterhouses. Same exact cut, just cut a little differently. And so you're going to get a different mix with each one. And the other thing, again, full transparency, it will not be your meat you get, because if I did that, I'd have to wait a long time to send it to you. So what I mean by that is when you have a beef processed, it's going to hang in the meat locker for 14 days or so until we get to cut it. But you're going to be able to say, I want a quarter A and a quarter D, and I'll send that to you right away out of our stock. The other policy I have with Wanted Raw Foods is it's always first in, first out. So when you as a franchise owner have a beef processed, we're going to send you the equivalent of quarter A immediately at your direction, and your meat will get into the back of the bus to be processed out to other orders down the road. Egg access, we already talked about that. 1 case a month per 25 layers. Remainder equals revenue. Anything that you do not consume yourself automatically goes to Wanted Raw Foods for us to sell. Wanted Raw Foods is no joke. This is a company that I am extremely excited to build. I'm really unique in this company in that I'm a little bit older than everybody else. I got a 10-year shelf life, and I want to do some damage in the last 10 years of my working career. I want to build something that I can look back on and be super proud of and that made a difference. And one of the ways that I know that's going to happen is I really want to create a meat company that takes down these big direct-to-consumer meat companies that are buying crappy meat from who knows where, and allow people to choose to buy meat from a company that they can go visit. And that's kind of my personal goal here, is over the next 10 years to make sure that we build Wanted into a 10 million, 50 million, $100 million company, but that is based on small farm values. That is based on building a company where folks can come out to the ranch and see what's going on. They can see how their food is produced. They can see the ranch hands working. And if I can do that and leave a legacy of that for whoever runs this company after I'm gone, that'll be my career goal, and I'm really excited to be able to do that. Quarterly payout math. We total the gross profits for the quarter. We subtract expense buckets. We come up with a net profit that we split 50-50 between Wanted Raw Foods and the franchise owners, and your check is equal to your share size. Let's talk about that. So let me get up to, I'm going to share my screen here again. Okay, the dreaded ROI question. This doesn't bother me as much as it used to bother me because it's really easy to explain now. That was one of the goals I had when I did the reboot on this back in June. So hypothetically speaking, never mind what you've consumed. Your consumption of meat has zero to do with how you get paid. The only thing that matters in terms of how you get paid and what you earn for your franchise in terms of passive real income is how Wanted Raw Foods does as a company. So let's say we're talking about Q4 this year, and that at Wanted Raw Foods in January, we do our calculations, we made $150,000 for Wanted Raw Foods in the Q4 this year. So how are we going to calculate your payout as a franchise owner? First thing we're going to do is back on October 1st, our CFO and I met, and we determined the number of franchises in our ecosystem. That's not just for the ranch in Texas or the ranch in Florida. That's all the franchises that are owned within our ecosystem. And let's say that number for this example is 32 franchises. It's actually a little more than that now because we've had a pretty good quarter as far as sales go, but this is the ones I have saved in my head. $150,000 made by Wanted Raw Foods. Then we're going to take out expenses. And I showed you the expenses briefly back there, but what they are is this. Our ranch hands get 1/6 of the revenue. That's their bonus for a job well done. If we're making money, the ranch hands did a great job by giving us incredible product to sell. They get a little cut. That's their bonus, gratuity, whatever you want to call it. They get 1/6. After that, you've got shipping and packaging. You've got marketing and processing. Those are the only expenses that franchise owners have to worry about. And you don't have to worry about them. They're calculated for you. They generally run 1/3 of our profits. So we're going to subtract out those expenses, which in this case is $50,000. That leaves us a net of $100,000. As I mentioned, contractually, we split it, right? Wanted Raw Foods gets half the revenue share, and the franchise owners split the rest of the revenue share. So we split that 50-50, which leaves, of course, $50,000. We divide that $50,000 by the total number of franchises, and that gives us our 1.0 franchise share. In this case, $1,562.50. If you owned a quarter at the beginning of that quarter, if you owned a 1/4 share of the franchise at the beginning of the quarter, you would just take 25% of that, or $390. Now, how do you calculate ROI? The first thing you need to understand when you're deciding about ROI is your savings. Even if you're buying your food from Wanted Raw Foods, you still have some expense in there. So when you want to calculate your ROI, and this is what the exercise I do with everybody I meet with on Zoom, is I need to know, what are you spending each month in the grocery store on meat and eggs? Don't worry about dairy for right now, because we're not ready for that. But just look up meat and eggs and take your receipts from your grocery store, ballpark it if you need to. What I have found on average is that most families between 4 and 6 with younger children are spending anywhere from $500 to $1,000 in the grocery store each month. So I'm going to keep it super conservative. Let's say your family spends $500 a month on food in the grocery store. That's your first ROI. That's $6,000 a year that you are no longer going to spend at Kroger's or Costco or any of these other mega marts, because you're getting your food from a known source, from animals that are raised the way your animals are raised. So let's say, now, I'm sorry, let me take a step back. Let's say that you're in that category, right? You spend $500, but you're going to have to spend some money with Wanted Raw Foods unless you take advantage of the promotion that we've got going. That's called foreshadowing, for those of you that didn't pick up on that. So let's say that you've got to spend $200 a month with Wanted Raw Foods to get the same amount of food you were spending $500 on. Okay, we're going to drop that $500 down to $400. Sorry, $100 a month. I'm mixing my metaphors here. So let's say that you spend $100 with Wanted Raw Foods every month to replace the food that you used to get in the grocery store. So we're going to drop you down to $400 a month. That's $4,800 in savings to you annually. Now, if you own a quarter franchise, right, 25% of a franchise share, your annual, based on this example, is $1,563. I want you to look at this and understand that, again, I am being uber conservative here. By annualizing this, I'm assuming no growth. I will go transparent on the other side in terms of bragging a little bit. We have doubled or nearly doubled every quarter that we've been in existence. Not a big sample size, I'm not lying to you. We started in January, we did around $15,000 in January, we did around $30,000 in Q2, and we did pretty close to $60,000 in Q3. I'm expecting Q4 to be 2 to 3x what we did in Q3. The reason for that is obviously the holidays. People spend more, they buy the bigger cuts. We've got some turkeys that we'll be selling. We've got a bunch of hams coming for Christmas. We've got prime ribs and Chateaubriands that are going to be available. So we are working really hard to make sure that Q4, always the biggest revenue generating quarter in the year for a meat company. My company in California, we were unique because we did a ton of turkeys, pasture-raised turkeys. And so we would do 40% of our annual business in the last 2 months of the year. Not a great way to have a spread of risk, but November and December were a lot of fun. We will have similar results here. So again, if we annualize and expect no growth, we take this 390 times 4. Again, that's just going to give us 1,563. Add that to the $4,800 that we got in food savings by getting your food from Wanted Raw Foods instead of from the grocery store, and that gives you $6,362 in terms of annual return on your investment. And if you divide that, I will show you right here that this is that amount divided by $50,000. That's a 13% ROI. I'm not mad at that. I mean, I don't know where else you're going these days that's not a penny stock that you got lucky with, that you're going to get a 13% ROI. Your passport savings account are a joke at 0.5% or 1%. You can do CDs if you want, where you might get 4.5%, 5.5%. I'm not a financial guy, so I don't even know what the going rate is on those anymore. You want to play the stock market? Sure, I guess, until something crashes and you weren't paying attention and it all goes away. This is real savings. This is real dollars. This is real food. And it is a very secure investment because, again, you have a tangible asset here. You have real livestock that is going to propagate and grow your franchise over time. Behind the scenes, this job is a lot of fun. The organization that we work for is amazing. We're very well taken care of as employees, not just financially, but in terms of what we get to do. I cannot tell you how enjoyable it is for me to look forward to going to Montana and Idaho for a couple days to look at ranches. Going and doing property tours at our Florida or our Tennessee ranch. We'll be there. I'll be in Tennessee on November 8th. I'll be in Florida on the 15th. Florida on the 15th is our big anniversary because it's 1 year since we closed escrow on that property, and we're doing a big camp out celebration for our families that live on that property or building on that property, and we'll do a lot of fun stuff. We've done river floats in Texas where we float down Little Elkhorn Creek, which runs adjacent to our property. We have events during the year. We have educational stuff. We have a lot of fun as a company. It's a ton of work. My wife will tell you, I don't get to see my wife a whole lot right now until we sell our property in California, get moved out here to Texas. I am only home in California 10, 11 days a month. That part of it's pretty brutal, but it's all worth it for the greater good. I know that as soon as we get to sell our property there in California and I can move my family out here so we can all be together again on a daily basis, and I can't wait for that. But in the meantime, we're getting it done and having some fun doing it. This is from our initial Wanted Raw Food launch back in in March. We did some testing, taste tests on the raw milk. And we've had events in Florida. We will have a massive event in spring in Tennessee to celebrate the beginning of that property's growth with all our new buyers out there. So it's a fun company to not only work for, it's a really fun company to be a part of. On that note, if you go to our main website, I'll put it up here again. Let's see. We're going to go over that in a sec. If you go to our main website, which is ACTS, D as in dog, E as in Edward, REAL, axdreal.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a hamburger menu. Click that and it'll drop down. There's a thing called Join Our Forum. We have a private social media network called the Mighty Network. It is an amazing place to get information on all things having to do with all aspects of our company. But the cool thing is it acts just like social media, except you don't get any of the BS. You don't get any of the ads or any of that nonsense. This is just people within the ACTS sphere that interact. And we as employees of the company interact with everybody on there as well, answering questions, giving directions, leading them to the information that they want. But a ton of the information that you get on that is from people that have been around for a while, people that have already bought land with ACTS, people that are actively building out their family compounds and their dream homes, their cabins and their Airbnbs, people that have had ranchises for a while and are enjoying the benefits of those. And so it's a really great place to get a ton of information. Also highly recommend that you follow, whatever the terminology is, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Instagram is our most active site, although I highly recommend you follow us on TikTok. And the reason is we've done a few live sales on Instagram for Wanted Raw Foods where we have really steeply discounted packages. We're moving all that to TikTok. It's a better platform for doing those kind of live sales. And so Malcolm has worked, he's our media creation guy, creator guy. And he has done an amazing job of building out our TikTok account. There is one video on there that is literally Justin describing what a semen tank is, and it is blown up. And if you want a good laugh, go pull up the comments. It is awesome. I just, anytime I want to laugh, I go look at the comments on the semen tank. Super valuable information. He didn't do anything funny in that, at least not unless you got the outtakes, which I do. But he did a great job explaining why it exists, what it does, and what its purpose is. But the comments, the jokes kind of write themselves. We have a lot of fun with this stuff. There's videos on Instagram of me chucking eggs out the truck window as I'm driving down a country road. You can check all that out. What I'd really appreciate is you following us on those platforms if you're so inclined, because that helps us with the algorithm get more attention, and that's going to lead to more success for everybody involved. Okay, I'm going to go over this one more time, and I'm going to be thorough about it because this is where we get a bunch of people. Some of you may have joined midstream. No problem. Happy to have you. Thrilled that you got a piece of this. You will be able to access the entire recording as well as a PDF of all the slides, so don't stress about that if you missed anything. but I am going to go over this again because we always get these questions at the end. So I'm going to do it one more time. It is not a get rich quick investment. This is not about short-term returns. You are not going to get rich off of owning a franchise. You're going to get food security. You're going to get some passive income, and you are going to know that you have fed your family for generations to come because you made this move today. But if you're looking to buy this and sell it a year from now or 10 years from now, it is going to be a horrible investment for you. Please don't do it. I don't want your money. It is not a high ROI real estate or stock flip. Again, you're not looking to turn this. This is not going to... Now, all that said, 10 years from now, I think the people that buy franchises in 2025 are going to be really pleased with me. I think that Wanted Raw Foods as a company is going to be a dominant figure in the direct-to-consumer meat industry. I am going to work my ass off to make sure that happens. There is a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. Butcher Box is the big boy on the block. They are a $600 million a year company. And my goal is to start with getting 1% of that. All I want is $6 million in 2026. And then I want to grow it from there. Because I think we will be able to match their technology and their user interface and their marketing with a much, much better product than they could ever hope to produce. But it is not a high ROI real estate or stock flip. You can't eat a stock or bond. This is a tangible living asset, one that feeds your family, multiplies, and sustains communities. Remember back to the beginning when we're talking about how many families a 4.5 acres can feed. This is what we're building here. It is not a small backyard homestead. This is not, one cow, a couple chickens, blah, blah, blah. This is an active, working 500,000, 1,500 acre ranch that your animals are going to be housed on. They are going to be part of a large herd. We will manage them that way because that's more efficient. But it is not hobby farming. You own a fully operational managed ranch run by seasoned ranchers who do it all for you. So I don't love that word. I should probably change that. You don't really own a ranch. You own livestock. I want to make sure this is really clear. When I say a quarter franchise, that has nothing to do with a quarter acre. I get people that get confused on this all the time. It is not, you're not buying a quarter acre worth of animals. You're buying a quarter share in a franchise, and you're getting livestock in that franchise. You are not buying land unless you do want to buy land with ACTS, and that's a whole other box of frogs. This is not a shared or communal operation. This is not a bunch of people getting together and raising livestock together. The people that live on our ranches are welcome to watch. They're welcome to participate when it's appropriate. They're welcome to observe and learn. But at the end of the day, our animals are run by our ranch hands because they're trained to do this. They have the knowledge. Laurent Lawless down in Florida, our ranch manager in Florida, has been doing this since he was 6 months old. He's run as many as 7,000 cows at one time in a cow-calf operation. He runs about 600 or 700 right now on the side for himself as well as managing our ranch. Running a large herd of animals is much easier than actually running one or two. But you got to know what you're doing. You got to know what to look for. You got to know how to tell when an animal's sick. And so this is not a bunch of people in a community that are going to figure it out together. We have the best ranch hands in the world, and they're paid appropriately because of that. It is not a concept or a prototype. This is not new. We've been doing this for a while. We have testimonials. Again, you are welcome to schedule a time to come out and visit one of our ranches and see what's going on there. Particularly Texas is where we have the most infrastructure. And if you want to come see what it's all about, I will happily schedule a time to meet you there and make sure I'm on property when you come out to tour. And we are not land consultants. We have no desire or ability to ranchise on land that you own somewhere else. Inevitably, I will get a dozen questions in the chat or on social media where everybody will say, I've got 30 acres in Louisiana, or I've got 25 acres in Colorado. Can I ranchise there? Can you come out and run my ranch? No, that's not what we do. It's all done on properties that we own because that's how we control the way things are done. We can set up the mob grazing and the rotational grazing and all that appropriately because we control the land. We do not offer these as a service to come over to your small farm or a large farm for that matter and do this. How do you get there? You're going to book a call. So this lovely young lady right now is Haley Robinson. She is our success coordinator. She keeps me in line. She keeps me on task. She keeps my calendar moving. She's amazing for us. And what she will do is once you fill out that interest form, at the end of this deal, where you're going to go is you're going to go to ranchise.com. And on ranchise.com, you are going to find a link there, and you're going to fill out the interest form, and you're going to tell us a little bit about yourself, how fast you want to move on stuff on this thing, what path you're interested in. Because if you want path number two, don't set up a Ranchise call with me. You'll be wasting your time. I'm happy to talk to you. I love getting to know new people and seeing who's coming into our sphere. But I'm also pretty busy. I've got a few different hats I wear here. And so I don't want to waste your time or mine. If this is your interest, then tell Haley that. Fill it out in the form, and she will connect you with TJ. TJ is our founder and CEO, and he will walk you through your goals and what he recommends to you. He will then hand you off to our financing guy, Joe, and Joe will hand you off to our COO of construction, James, and those people will get you all the information you need so you can start making decisions. If you want to start with a Ranchise, and it's very common for people to say, hey, look, I'm not ready to do the whole off-grid moving away thing, but I do love the idea of food security, and I'd like a little passive income, and I don't want to have to do anything, then set up a call with me. What Haley will do is she'll determine based on the discussion she has with you and the answers that you provided in the little interest form, if you're ready to go right now and you want the 25% off and you want the 12-month subscription and you can get cash to me by next Friday, she will make sure you're on my calendar next week. If you're not ready, don't feel bad. We run different kinds of promotions all the time. Do not put yourself under that kind of pressure. She will walk you down the path of, we have an email campaign that'll help you get ready to have that cash ready, whether it's fixing your credit score, whether it's taking a HELOC out on the home that you already own, whether it's partnering up with other family members. There's a lot of different paths to get there. But I don't want anybody to do this unless they're comfortable. I don't want anybody to stretch to try to get this. And then, you and I feel bad 6 months down the road when you're struggling with other bills because you bought this Ranchise. This has to be a good fit, and I only want to sell it to people that it's a good fit for, but I also really desperately want to help you get to the point where you're ready, and we can do that through some education and some other assistance that we can offer for that. Sorry, one other thing I forgot to mention. In the interest of keeping my calendar from being insane and keeping TJ's calendars from being insane, we do take a deposit. These are fully refundable. This is new. We haven't done it in the past. For the Ranchise portion, we've been doing it for some time on the parcel reservation system. So if you want to book a call with me, you'll pay a $500 deposit. If you don't end up buying a Ranchise and you want your $500 back, you get it back minus $50. All you got to pay to get it back is the service charge that Stripe charges us. The reason we do that is because it avoids the people that just want to come in and talk, and they're not really serious about it. I am happy to talk to people all day long, but again, pretty busy guy. I want to make sure that I'm helping the people that are ready to go. And if you're not ready to go, no sweat, we'll get you there. But that's why the deposit is so important. And then if you want to talk about, with TJ, you're going to make a parcel reservation for $2,500. And that parcel reservation, you can assign to whatever parcel you want down the road. Again, fully refundable.
Another option, Adam, to talk to me is to actually just stay here with us for a little bonus session where we also talking through business principles. So for everybody who's going to stay with me tonight, we're going to be talking through business principles, and I'll be answering questions directly for you guys. All right, back to it.
So we're pretty much at the end of the deal here, right? This is everything you need to know, and that's really important. If you want some entertaining, life-altering info, stick around after I wrap this up, my portion of it. We call it the Lunatic Hour with TJ. He will walk you through some business principles of how we built this thing and why it works. It is thoroughly entertaining and incredibly informative, so don't bail just when I'm done. Stick around for that too. But the last couple pieces of information before we get to your questions. Ranchise order form, ranchise.com. Sorry, go away. Ranchise.com/order will get you that what did I call it? The interest form. Try our premium food, wantedrawfoods.com. Since you're all here, use SAVE10. If you've never placed an order with us, use SAVE10. That'll save you 10%. I appreciate you coming by tonight, checking this out. Follow us on Instagram at Wanted Raw Foods, at AXD Real, at AXRHL, Little G Ranch. All our ranches are on there as well. Really, AXD Real and Wanted Raw Foods are where you're going to find the most informative, intense content. We do a lot of infotainment. We do some really funny stuff with marketing reels and stuff like that, but that's where you'll get all that.